AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. We have a new video generator that's blazing fast and amazing quality. We have an open source AI that can create infographics and slides with legit text. This new AI can create a full-body waifu, avatar, of anyone, and you can interact with it in real time. This new AI allows you to create super realistic photos of any reference person or character. DeepSeek releases an incredible new model, and Google drops the best AI model so far, Gemini 2.5 Pro, and OpenAI drops a mind-blowing image generator. We have some incredible humanoid robot demos and a lot more, so let's jump right in. Thanks to HubSpot for sponsoring this video. First up, we have a new free and open source video generator. It's called Act Video, which stands for Accelerating Video Diffusion Model, and this one is 8.5 times faster than Hunyuan Video, which is already one of the leading video generators out there. So it's crazy fast and perfect for local video generation. And it can pull this off using a new efficient architecture, which we'll go over in a second. But first, let's look at some demos. So here are some videos that are 1280 by 720, and these are 24 frames per second. So this is the classic Sora Tokyo lady prompt. So the prompt is here. A stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street. She wears a black leather jacket, a long red dress, and here's the result. There's no artifacts or anything. The people walking in the background do not warp in shape or magically disappear. This is a perfect and very detailed generation. Here's another example. So this is an extreme close-up of a gray-haired man with a beard in his 60s, etc., etc. And here's the generation. Super realistic, very detailed, and it's hard to find any flaws with this. Here's an even trickier prompt. So a middle-aged, sad, bald man becomes happy as a wig of curly hair and sunglasses falls suddenly on his head. And indeed, he kind of turns from sad to happy as the wig falls on his head. Notice the physics of how the wig falls on his head. It's also really realistic and accurate. Here are some giant woolly mammoths treading through a snowy meadow. And again, this looks really good quality. Here, a girl raises her left hand to cover her smiling mouth. The only flaw here is it's not her left hand, but her hand is covering her smiling mouth. And look how realistic this is. Here's another example, a litter of golden retriever puppies playing in the snow, and here is what we get. Super realistic and detailed. Here's another classic Sora prompt. So a camera follows behind a white vintage SUV with a black roof rack as it speeds up a steep dirt road. The only flaw here is that the car plate is not really legible. Or here's an adorable happy otter confidently stands on a surfboard wearing a yellow life jacket. What an adorable little thing, by the way. Okay, this is so realistic. So here a man is holding a bass and in front of a microphone in a room. He appears to be speaking or singing. By the way, that microphone looks like a Shure 7B. And then this bass is kind of weird because it only has 4 knobs at the top, but there are 5 strings. So how does that work? But this is a subtle error that most people won't really notice. The strings are straight and the frets do look accurate. And this guy is singing or speaking into the mic super realistically. Alright, so how does this work? How can it generate such good quality videos, but it's also 8.5 times faster than Hunyuan? So here's the method. It first learns from a pre-trained or an existing video model. And this model takes multiple steps to generate a video. So for all diffusion models out there, which include image and video generators, they basically start with a frame of latent noise that looks like this. And then for each step, it takes away some of that noise until eventually you get your final image or video frame. So for most of these leading video generators, they do take multiple steps to take away enough noise so you actually get a clear video. Well, this new model basically looks at all the steps from this existing model, and so it can see the first step of the generation process and the final step of the generation process, and then it just learns to skip all these middle steps and learns to generate the video from the first step to the final step. So this is called trajectory-based few-step guidance. where they trained this new model to basically skip all the steps in the middle. And then they also use a special technique called adversarial training strategy. And this is used to further improve the quality of the generated videos by matching it to the style of this pre-trained or existing video model. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the good news is the models are already out for you to download. So it's available in this Hugging Face link. And then if you click on this GitHub repo, it contains all the instructions on how to install this and run it locally on your computer. And notice here the insane difference in generation time. So for Hun Yuan to generate a 720p video, it takes over 3,000 seconds. But for this new model, it only takes 380 seconds. Anyways, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, this AI is incredible. It's called Video T1, and this basically helps video generators create even better models by using extra compute when generating a video. In other words, it can make video generations look even better without having to retrain the model. So this uses a term called test time scaling. By the way, this is similar to how thinking language models like OpenAI's O3 or O1 or DeepSeek R1 work. When you use these thinking models, they don't just spit out the answer immediately, but instead, they use some compute and take some time to think through its answer before outputting a response. So similarly for this video 1, it also uses some compute during the generation process to give you an even better generation. So here are a few examples. On the left is a video generated by an open source model called Pyramid Flow. However, the prompt is a zebra and a giraffe. So we don't really see a giraffe in this original video. Well, if we run this again with all the same settings, but we add in this test time scaling method, notice that it makes the video a lot more accurate. It's not perfect, but it indeed adds a giraffe to the video. Here's another example where the prompt is robot dancing in Times Square, and as you can see, the original video, which was using Pyramid Flow, I believe, just could not handle a dancing robot. However, once we add in this test time scaling method, with all the other settings the same, notice how much better this video is. Same with this example, where the prompt is a cat wearing sunglasses and working as a lifeguard at a pool. In the original video, it doesn't really look like a lifeguard. Plus, the sunglasses are kind of messed up. But after adding this test time scaling method, the cat looks a lot better and it does look like a lifeguard. Same with this example where the prompt is a sheep and a cow. In the original video, there is no cow, but after using this method, it does generate a sheep and a cow. The nice thing is this method can be applied to any video generator. It's model agnostic, so here's another example using, I believe, Cog Video. If the prompt is a panda playing guitar by a campfire, notice that the original video is absolutely awful. But after using this test time scaling, it looks way better. Here's another example where the prompt is Bigfoot walking in the snowstorm. In the original video, Bigfoot is missing arms, but after using this test time scaling method, Bigfoot looks a lot better. Same with this example of a panda drinking coffee at a cafe. Notice that in the original video, I don't know what the panda's doing. The panda is chewing on a spoon for some reason. It's definitely not drinking coffee, but after using this tool while keeping all the settings the same, look how much better the video is. Alright, so really quickly, here's how it works. It actually has two ways of doing this test time scaling method. One way is called random linear search. So how this works is it first takes your prompt and it generates multiple images of your prompt to use as the first frame of the video. And then for each image, it would go ahead and generate a video clip. And then it uses this reward model to basically score each video clip based on its quality and then select the video with the highest score as your final video. So that's one algorithm. Another algorithm is called tree of frames search. So again, it takes in your prompt and generates multiple images from that as the starting frame of your video. It then goes through this reward component, which basically eliminates any video generations that do not have good physics or stability. So after eliminating some of these options, the remaining video clips are then passed through this other reward component, which checks for consistency and motion. So it gets rid of some video clips that are not consistent or have weird motions. And then finally, we are left with the remaining candidates, which are then passed through this final reward component, which selects the video that's the best quality and aligns with the text prompt. So here's what they found. It doesn't matter which video generator model you use. For all instances, if you apply test time scaling, it will definitely increase the quality of the generation based on just the initial generation. And then in this graph, the x-axis is basically the number of samples, so how many clips you want this test time method to generate at once. Of course, the more clips you generate, the more compute and more time it will take, but you have more options to choose from. And so as you increase the number of clips generated, the quality score does increase, but the improvement does slow down and reach a limit at some point. They also found that certain elements like scene details and object clarity improve quite a lot after applying this test time scaling method. However, other components like motion smoothness and temporal flickering are harder to improve. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the nice thing is the code is already out. So if you click into this GitHub repo and scroll down a bit, this contains all the instructions on how to download and use this locally. And again, the nice thing is this can be applied to any video generator model. So it's a super versatile tool. Anyways, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Speaking of AI tools, while there are many reasons to use AI, one of the biggest reasons is to get rid of the boring and tedious tasks that are really time-consuming. That's why I wanted to share a free and awesome resource called the AI Productivity Stack. 50 tools for 2 times the output by HubSpot. This guide will help you eliminate busy work by automating repetitive tasks like scheduling, email management, and content creation. It'll also help optimize your time with AI-driven organization and decision-making tools. You can scale your productivity by leveraging AI for content generation, marketing, and business automation. Inside, you'll find a curated selection of 50 AI tools for task management, automation, productivity, and more. For each tool, I especially love the section on how to use it in a productivity workflow, which shows you how to apply this tool to save you a ton of time. And best of all, this resource is absolutely free. Simply click the link in the description below and get instant access. This bundle is made by the sponsor of this video, HubSpot. Next up, this tool is also insanely useful. It's called Infinite You by ByteDance, and this can create images of anyone just from a single reference photo. And this is very accurate. So here are some examples. If you input this photo of a woman and then using an image generator called Flux, you can generate any photo of this woman with this tool. And notice for all of these images, they do look like the woman in the original reference image. Same with this example, if we input this photo of a Chinese actress, again, we can generate any photo of her doing anything. And notice that all of these photos look exactly like the reference image. Here's another example, so you can get this woman to do yoga at the beach, or give a speech, or wear a wedding dress. And again, notice for all of these photos, it looks exactly like the face in the reference photo. Same with this example at the bottom, you can generate this man doing anything. Note that Infinite You uses Flux as the base model. Now, I try to make my videos as beginner-friendly as possible, so if you have no idea what Flux is, this is one of the best open-source image generators we have right now. In fact, if you're not familiar with Flux, see this video for a full review and installation tutorial if you're interested. Anyways, back to this, the awesome thing is, Infinite You is compatible with any variants of Flux, including other checkpoints, plus you can use other Flux add-ons like ControlNet, so for example, you can add this depth map, plus this Infinite You as the face reference to generate this. Or you can also use a pose control net, so you would add in a pose skeleton like this, plus the Infinite U face reference, and then get this. You can also plug in any Flux-compatible LoRa's, or you can also add in some other Flux add-ons like O-Mini Control, which I've gone over on my channel before, or IP Adapter, which is another character or style reference tool. So for example, you can input this face with Infinite U and then input this style that you want to clone and you would get this. Or here's another example where you can input this face and then using this style reference, you can get something like this. And this does look like the original character even though it's an anime style, which is kind of uncanny. Now if you compare Infinite U with other existing methods for face reference, notice that it's way more powerful in terms of actually following your prompt. So the top row is the original face photo. Let's look at this first column. If we prompt it with old man with glasses reading a book at home, notice that the other two methods like IP Adapter and Pulid cannot actually generate this face as an old man, but Infinite U is able to actually turn this guy into an old man. Same with this middle column. If we prompt it with teen boy with glasses, notice that Infinite U is the only one that turns this face into a teen boy. And then same with this last column. If the prompt is smiling old woman gardening in her backyard, notice that Infinite U is the only one that actually turns this face into a smiling old woman. The awesome thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've already released the models for you to use. So if you click on this GitHub repo, it contains all the instructions on how to download and use this on your computer. However, note that here it says the full performance BF16 model does require a peak VRAM of around 43 gigabytes. I'm sure most of you do not have 43 gigabytes, but they are working to reduce the memory usage and will post an update soon. And I mean, since this is open source, I'm sure there's going to be way more efficient and quantized versions of this model very soon. Anyways, all the links are up here, plus they also have a free Hugging Face demo, so I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, this AI is really powerful. It's called a Clue Gaussian, and this can create 3D models of really large scenes, like multiple rooms or buildings, just from a few photos of the area. So here's an example where it starts off with this gallery, and notice how sharp and detailed the text is. This is really high resolution. And note that it's basically taking in many photos of this area and stitching them together to create this 3D model, where you can move around like this. Notice that all these calligraphy paintings in this gallery are really detailed and high quality. And then here's the crazy thing. Note that it's not just limited to the initial gallery room, but you can keep stitching photos together of other places like this hallway or this courtyard, and everything like the tables, the chairs, the windows is just really high quality. So you can potentially create a 3D model of a huge area with incredible accuracy. Here's another example of this canteen. Again, you basically just take a few photos everywhere in this canteen and then plug it through this AI, and it would stitch everything together and create this 3D scene. Again, notice how realistic and high quality everything is. Here's another example. This looks like a pretty nice place to work, by the way. And if you compare this with other methods, it's not even close. So here I'm comparing another method called City Gaussian with Clue Gaussian. And notice that for a lot of these calligraphy paintings in the video by City Gaussian, the characters are just really blurry. It looks really smudged. But for Clue Gaussian, you can see a clear difference. I mean, everything is just really accurate and sharp. Here's another comparison with another method called Fast Gaussian, and this one is a bit better in quality, but again, notice that Clue Gaussian kind of captures the details of the gravel and all the objects a bit better. Everything is just slightly sharper and finer in detail. Really quickly, here's how it works. Let's say you have a room like this, and we have photos taken at the positions marked with the letter A. Well, first, the scene is split into smaller regions like this, based on the camera positions. And then it basically uses a clustering algorithm to group images into different regions, as you can see here. And then it proceeds to reconstruct each region. So for example, let's say we are reconstructing this region. Instead of just using the photos within the region, which are the green letters, it also pulls from nearby photos to give it even more data and accuracy for reconstruction. Here you can see it's also pulling these yellow and red letters. And then it merges everything together to render the 3D scene. And note that it generates the scene region by region. So as you walk around a 3D scene, it only generates the region that you're in first, which is more computationally efficient, and this further improves the rendering speed. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, it does say the data is coming soon, so it looks like they are going to open source this. This is one of the best quality 3D scene generators I've seen so far, so I'm really excited for this. Anyways, for now, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. In humanoid robot news, in my past few news videos, I've already featured some insane stuff, like this robot from Unitree being able to do kung fu or even a side flip, which is extremely hard, or this robot from Engine AI running super fast. And then we also had the new Boston Dynamics Atlas demo last week, showing how it was able to do some crazy stuff like cartwheels, handstands, and more. Well, this week is even crazier, so Unitree posted a video of this. That is so ridiculous. I mean, it's incredibly hard for even an average human to do a kickflip like this. It requires a lot of strength, speed, and control. If you think about it, you need explosive power in your kick in order to push your entire body up and over quickly. Everything needs to happen really fast with enough power and control, but astonishingly, Unitree was able to pull this off. Now, some of you might think this is fake or CGI, but notice the reflection of the robot on the floor. Like, I don't see any clear signs that this is CGI. This looks genuine to me. And then here's another demo of the Unitree robot doing a sweeping kick like this. And it can also do Tai Chi. Now this is choreographed, but nevertheless, it's still really impressive how it's able to perform all of this so quickly while keeping balanced. This is super impressive, especially considering that other robot companies like Figure or the Tesla Optimus or Phoenix, those robots move so slowly compared to this. In other news, this week, OpenAI dropped their 4.0 image generator, which is simply mind-blowing. It can create super realistic images like this, or transform images into any other style like The Simpsons or Studio Ghibli or 3D or, anything. Plus, it can create legit diagrams and maps and even entire interfaces or posters or recipes with the correct text. Now, I already did a full review video on this, so I won't repeat too much here. See this video if you want to learn more. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this OpenAI image generator is because a lot of people in the comments were saying, wouldn't it be great if we can have an open source, uncensored version that we can run locally on our computers, but it can also generate, these infographics or recipes with the correct text? Well, I'm sure open source will catch up eventually, but I was thinking, at least it would take a few weeks or a few months. But guess what? We already have something one day after, like literally one freaking day after OpenAI released their image generator. We have this new AI called BizGen, and this can generate high-quality infographics and slides with the correct text. And yes, this is completely free and open source, and it's out for you to use already. How insane is that? So let's go over a few examples. Here's one example of a poster for a business agency. Note that business is spelled wrong, so there are like subtle errors across this poster, but for 90% of the text, it is legible. And I mean, you can create this in a matter of seconds. You no longer need to manually type out all the text, select the proper fonts and colors, select the elements, and then find an appropriate image. I think in the very near future, we're not going to need things like Photoshop or Canva to create these posters. We can just prompt an AI to create something like this in seconds, and if we don't like how something looks, we can just prompt it further to micro-edit specific parts of the poster. Anyways, here's another example. This time it's in Chinese, and yes, the Chinese does look accurate and legible. And then here's another example of a pet hotel. The text is correct, but the cats kind of look weird over here. Here's another good one. So this poster is how to train your dog, and again, most of the text looks correct to me. Here's another example in Korean. Now, I don't understand Korean, so I have no idea if this is right or wrong. If you are Korean, let me know in the comments below. Does the text look correct to you? Now, in addition to generating just one infographic, it can also generate multiple slides with the same design and style. So here's an example of some minimal furniture slideshow, and here are the 4 slides that it has generated. It keeps the style consistent across these 4 slides, plus the text is correct. All right, here's another example of a business strategy slideshow. And this time the theme is like this, with a greenish background and with this goofy handwriting font. Notice it preserves the same style across all 4 slides. And the text does look correct. Very nice. And the nice thing is this can be broken down into multiple layers. So it first starts off with the background layer, then it adds the title and subtitles, then it adds the text, plus it also generates various objects and elements that it would add to the infographic. And then it would actually map out where each element or object or text card would go in the final image. So here's how it works. They use a method called layout guided cross attention to create the slide or infographic. So instead of just generating the entire thing at once, it splits the infographic into multiple smaller sections like this. And then for each section, it would use a language model to determine what goes in that section. So for example, for here, it would probably be wise to insert the title of the infographic into here with the correct color and font. And then over here, you can see it's like determining that this should be a solid yellow rectangle with a white border. And then over here, it would decide to insert something else. So across all these components in this layout, for each one, it would decide the content that goes in that area. So it basically uses this layout-aware attention system to inject text or objects or elements into the right spots. And then finally, it also uses this method called layout conditional CFG to check each section and make sure that the layout is correct and improve the look even further using this algorithm. So you can see before, like over here and over here, the text kind of has this really ugly shadow for some reason. Well, after plugging it into this conditional CFG component, it corrects for all these artifacts. And then if you compare this new BizGen with other state-of-the-art image generators like DALL-E 3 or Stable Diffusion 3 or Flux, at least in terms of generating slides and infographics, notice that BizGen outperforms all the other models. It basically wins most of the time. Now, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the nice thing is they've already released everything. Here's the Hugging Face link with all the models, plus here's the GitHub repo, which contains all the instructions on how to install this and use it locally on your computer. Anyways, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. In other news, your full-body virtual waifu is coming soon. So Alibaba just released Tao Avatar this week. This can create realistic 3D avatars that can talk and move like real people. So here are some examples of this in action. How this works is it uses multiple camera views of a person to create a 3D model of them, which can then be controlled in real time to talk and perform different actions. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. And what's your favorite food? My favorite food is probably sushi. I love the combination of flavors and textures. And my favorite activity is definitely cooking and trying out new recipes. What about you? Do you have any favorites? Here are some other examples. Notice how accurate her hands and fingers are. Plus, the way she talks and moves looks so natural. This is insanely realistic and way better than, Apple Vision Pro's native avatar generator. And again, note that this can run in real time on mobile devices, and it can even achieve 90 frames per second on devices like the Apple Vision Pro. Not only that, but you can also relight the avatar based on different scenes. So here, for example, the original woman, you can see her white balance isn't really aligned with the background. But after turning this setting on, notice how the white balance now blends in seamlessly with the background of this video. Alright, so really quickly, here's how it works. You first need to input multiple camera views of a person like this, and then it would basically create a 3D mesh of that person using these photos. This data would then be run through this teacher component, which basically learns how to deform the mesh to match different poses and expressions as the person moves around in real time. And then this data is sent through these baking components, which basically send these formations into a lightweight network to make it run faster on mobile devices. And then we also merge other details together, like the body shape and the head shape and how they move. And after combining all this data together, you get your final avatar, which can be animated in real time. Now, if you compare this with other 3D avatar generators, which I've featured on my channel before, notice that this new one, Tao Avatar, is just way better in terms of quality and accuracy. So notice as it pauses on a certain frame, if you look at her teeth, for example, Tao Avatar is the only one that can generate realistic and correct teeth. And same with the ear over here and the mouth over here. Tao Avatar is by far the best quality and most realistic render of this character. And then here's another example. Again, if you zoom in on his face, notice that Tao Avatar is the best one out there out of all these other avatar generators. And then here's a comparison on challenging expressions. So if you get this character to do some uncommon expressions like this, notice that for some of the other avatar generators, they're not able to pull it off. But Tao Avatar just handles this really well. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released the dataset on Hugging Face, and here's a GitHub repo where if you click into it, it says they're going to release an Android app which will be open sourced soon. That is incredible how they're actually gonna release this insane tech and make it open source. This would be a game changer for a lot of applications. If you've been following my channel before, you probably know what I'm talking about. Anyways, for now, I'll link to this page in the description below for you to read further. And next up, this AI is pretty cool. It's called Sin City, and this can create entire 3D worlds from just the text prompt. So here's an example of this in action. It actually starts off with a grid layout, and for each tile, you can generate any component like this. So eventually, after populating all the tiles, you would get a full 3D world, and all the pieces are actually interconnected. So here are some examples. Notice that for all the objects, it's pretty high quality. And then here's another 3D world. And it doesn't have to be square, so this one is a bit longer in shape, and it looks like it incorporates all 4 seasons. So it's like transitioning from winter to spring. You can see some cherry blossoms there, and then it's summer and then autumn. All right, so here's how it works. It actually uses 2 open source tools to pull this off. So for each tile in the grid, you would prompt it on what you want to generate, and then it would use Flux, which is one of the leading open source image generators out there, to first generate a 2D scene of whatever you want to generate. And it uses Flux in painting to basically merge this seamlessly with existing tiles in your 3D world. So notice how for the stream and the grass here, it blends in seamlessly with this existing tile. And then it runs it through Trellis, which I've gone over on my channel before. This is one of the leading open source 3D generators out there, and this can basically take an image and turn it into a 3D model, like this. And then it takes this 3D model, and then it does some further refining so that it blends in seamlessly with the adjacent tiles. And then afterwards, if you rinse and repeat this process for all the tiles on your grid, you're gonna get this really beautiful and detailed 3D world. Now, if you scroll up to the top, they do have a GitHub repo, and it says here, we aim to publish the code as soon as possible, likely within a few weeks. Let's hope they stick to their word and actually release this. Anyways, for now, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. In other news, this week, DeepSeek released their latest version of their non-thinking V3 model, and this is insanely good. Here they claim that it's especially good in reasoning and front-end development skills, and also tool use capabilities. And if you look at these benchmark scores, note that it's as good or even better than the other leading non-thinking models out there like GPT 4.5 and Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So here's an example of this new DeepSeek V3 coding up an interface for 5 balls in a spinning hexagon with various settings like gravity, friction, and rotation speed. Note that this is a non-thinking model. unlike the DeepSeek R1 or OpenAI's O3 or O1. So it's super impressive that it was able to pull this off. It just spits everything out at once, and it doesn't take time to think through its answer. And if you look at this independent leaderboard by artificial analysis, and if you rank all the models out there in terms of intelligence, note that DeepSeek version 3 is the leading non-thinking model out there. So the top 3 here, O3 Mini, DeepSeek R1, and QWQ by Alibaba, they are thinking models, so they do take some time to think through its response before answering you. So obviously, these would perform better in terms of intelligence. But in terms of non-thinking, it's really impressive. This is a completely open source model that even beats Claude 3.7 or Google's Gemini 2.0 Flash or GPT-4o. And also, if you look at the price, like I said, this is open source, so you can run it locally, but if you decide to use it via their API, it would cost you around 50 cents per 1 million tokens. And if you compare this with Claude 3.7, this is like 12 times more expensive. And then GPT 4.5, which is also a non-thinking model, this is like over 180 times more expensive, even though this one has higher intelligence. How insane is that? The nice thing is the model weights are already out, so they released this Hugging Face link, and if you click into the Files tab, this is where you can download the latest version of DeepSeek v3. The links are all down here, so I'll link to this official release page in the description below. In other news, Google drops their best model yet, Gemini 2.5. Interestingly, they released this at around the same time that OpenAI released their 4o image generator. And this is not coincidental, by the way. So Google and OpenAI, they tend to always release bangers at the same time to steal each other's thunder. Now, even though OpenAI's image generator got the most attention, Gemini 2.5 Pro is actually a huge deal. This is built with advanced reasoning capabilities, and it excels at complex tasks like advanced coding, math, and science. Now, the crazy thing is this features a 1 million token context window, and they even say 2 million is coming soon. And this is so useful. This is basically how much text or info you can fit into your prompt in one go. Note that for the other top models like OpenAI's O3 or O1, they only have a context window of 200,000 tokens. And then DeepSeek R1 only has 128K. So Google's new Gemini 2.5 Pro allows for at least 5 times more data to be stuffed into your prompt. This is roughly over 30,000 lines of code, so you can plug in your entire code base into here to get it to analyze, or over 700,000 words, so you can plug in an entire book or tons of documents at once for it to analyze. Or this is over 11 hours of audio. And speaking of audio, yes, this is multimodal, meaning it does support multiple input types, including text, images, audio, and video. But enough specs, let's look at some benchmarks to see how good this model actually is. So if you look at this leaderboard where users can blind test different AI models, note that Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental is currently at the top. And note the huge difference in the arena score. So the other top 3 models only beat each other by a few points, but Gemini 2.5 beats the next best one by almost 40 points, which is crazy. And then if you look at this chart, note that Gemini 2.5 Pro is #1 across all of these different categories, including overall style control, hard prompts, coding, math, creative writing, instruction following, etc., etc. And the awesome thing is, you can try it out right now for free in Google's AI Studio, which I'll also link to in the description below. In this model dropdown over here, you just need to select 2.5 Pro Experimental over here. Anyways, I'm planning to do a full review on Gemini 2.5 Pro. I'm gonna spend the next few days thoroughly testing it first to show you all the cool things it can do. So stay tuned for that. It will probably be out in the coming few days. Next up, Alibaba also releases Qwen 2.5 Omni. This is a multimodal model that can not only understand text, but also video, images, and audio. In fact, it has a voice which you can talk to in real time. And best of all, it's open sourcing all of this for free. So the models are already out on Hugging Face or ModelScope or Dash Scope for you to download and run locally. Plus, they've released a GitHub repo, which contains all the instructions on how to run this on your computer. So note that this model is only 7 billion parameters, so you can easily run this on most consumer-grade GPUs or even on some good enough smartphones. Now, if you compare Qwen 2.5 Omni with other multimodal models of similar sizes, notice that it just beats everything, including Gemini 1.5 Pro. And the funny thing is, for speech generation, it's as good as a human, and it probably sounds more human than me. Anyways, in addition to downloading it and using it locally on your computer, you can also use this online for free via their Qwen chat interface. Let's try this out right now. You just need to click on this and it would activate this Omni model. You can talk to this voice in real time. So let's go with this voice chat option first. Hey there, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. How can I assist you today? Can you tell a bedtime story for my kid? Sure! Once upon a time, there was a little mouse named Mickey. He lived in an old, cozy house made of wood. One day, while exploring his home, he found a shiny coin under a pile of leaves. The coin was magical. When Mickey rubbed it against his nose, a tiny fairy appeared. So I'm gonna end the voice chat there. That's just to give you an example of how this works. Note that the quality and intelligence of this real-time voice is not great. It's definitely a lot worse than OpenAI's advanced voice mode or Sesame's real-time voice, which I've gone over on my channel before. However, note that for this one, the entire multimodal language model, which includes text chat and audio, plus it can analyze images, the whole thing is only 7 billion parameters, which can be used on most consumer-grade GPUs or even some smartphones. So you're kind of trading quality for compatibility. So this isn't for solving PhD-level questions, but if you just need a voice to talk to, then this is a great local alternative. Anyways, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, one of my favorite video generators, Kling, has released a new feature. So their layout looks a bit different now. They now have this new AI sounds feature where you can prompt an AI to generate audio for you. So here's an example. Here's a campfire crack. Very nice. And then here's a coin drop. Or you can upload an existing video into here for it to analyze and generate the sound for that video. So let's try a few examples. Here I have a first-person view video of this man walking through a nightclub. Notice that for all my video generations, there's now this AI sound button. So let's click on this. Afterwards, it would send your video into here, and then it would auto-detect the audio that it should generate. So there are bass thumps, camera shakes, disoriented movements, flickering lights. I'm gonna get rid of this and then put a loud nightclub with people talking and dancing. All right, let's click generate, which by the way would cost 10 credits. And let's see what that gives us. All right, here's what we get. Very nice, that's already pretty good. So there you go, that's just a new feature in Kling, and it does come in pretty handy at times. You can now generate the audio right after you generate the video, so you don't need to plug this into a separate program. So that is Kling's new audio generation feature. I'll link to Kling in the description below. I believe you can sign up for free and get free daily credits, so check it out if you're interested. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to